Welcome to this scientific lecture on the effortless effort paradox and the fascinating concept of flow state. Today we're going to explore one of the most intriguing phenomena in neuroscience and psychology. Flow state is a mental state where you become completely immersed in an activity. Time seems to disappear, your sense of self vanishes, and your performance reaches its peak. This is the effortless effort paradox. Here's the paradox. Your best work happens not when you're straining with maximum conscious effort, but when the work feels almost automatic and effortless. In flow state, hours can pass like minutes. You become so absorbed that you lose awareness of yourself as separate from the task. The key is that your conscious analytical mind steps aside and lets your subconscious expertise take over. Think of a professional dancer. When they're performing their most beautiful and complex routines, they're not consciously thinking about each individual step. When a dancer thinks consciously about their foot placement, their hip rotation, their arm position, they actually perform worse. They stumble. But when they let their trained body take over and enter flow, the movements become fluid and graceful. This is the paradox. The harder you consciously try, the more you interfere with your natural ability. The dancer who stops analyzing each step performs better than the one who overthinks. Now let's dive into the neuroscience. What's actually happening in your brain during flow state? Neuroscientists have discovered something remarkable. During flow, activity in your prefrontal cortex actually decreases. This is called transient hypofrontality. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for conscious control, self-awareness, and time perception. When it quiets down, those functions diminish, which is why you lose track of time and self during flow. Meanwhile, your subconscious pattern recognition networks light up. These are networks that have been trained through thousands of hours of practice. Flow doesn't just happen randomly. There's a precise mathematical relationship that determines when you enter flow state. You enter flow when the challenge of a task matches your skill level almost exactly. Too easy and you're bored. Too hard and you're anxious. Here's the flow channel diagram. The green zone is where flow happens, along the diagonal where challenge equals skill. Below the line, you're bored because the task is too easy. Above the line, you're anxious because it's too difficult. Mathematically, flow occurs when the ratio of challenge to skill is approximately equal to 1. This is the sweet spot. Research suggests that optimal flow occurs when the challenge is about 3 to 5% above your current skill level, just enough to stretch you but not break you. Flow state also involves a powerful cocktail of neurochemicals that enhance your performance and make the experience feel rewarding. There are 5 key neurochemicals that flood your brain during flow state. First is dopamine. This drives motivation and enhances your ability to recognize patterns. It makes the experience feel rewarding. Second is norepinephrine. This tightens your focus and increases your heart rate, delivering more energy and alertness. Third, endorphins. These are natural painkillers that create feelings of pleasure and can block physical discomfort. Fourth is anandamide, often called the bliss molecule. This enhances lateral thinking and creative connections between ideas. Finally, serotonin floods in after the flow state ends, creating that deep sense of contentment and satisfaction. Now let's talk about the measurable performance benefits. How much better do you actually perform in flow state? Studies by McKinsey and Advanced Brain Monitoring have quantified the flow state advantage. Executives in flow state showed productivity increases of up to 500%. That's 5 times more productive than their normal state. Learning speed increases dramatically. People in flow can learn new skills 2 to 5 times faster than normal. Creative problem solving improves by 400 to 700%. You make connections and generate solutions much faster. There's a fundamental equation that governs your ability to enter and maintain flow. It relates to how you allocate your attentional resources. Your total attention capacity, A total, equals attention on the task, plus attention on yourself, plus attention on the environment. Here's the key insight. Your total attention is a fixed resource. You can't increase it, you can only redistribute it. In your normal state, you're constantly dividing attention. You're thinking about the task, monitoring yourself, worrying about what others think, noticing your surroundings. Typically, maybe 60% goes to the task, 25% to self-monitoring, and 15% to environmental awareness. But in flow state, the prefrontal cortex quiets down, self-awareness vanishes, environmental distractions fade away. Now 98% of your attention goes to the task. Only 1 or 2% is wasted on self-monitoring or distractions. This concentration is what creates the performance leap. This connects to cognitive load theory. Your working memory has strict limitations. Psychologist George Miller discovered that working memory can hold about 7 ± 2 chunks of information at once. Your conscious mind processes information slowly, at roughly 120 bits per second. But your subconscious can process 11 million bits per second. That's nearly 100,000 times faster. The ratio is staggering. 11 million divided by 120 gives you about 91,667. Your subconscious is nearly 100,000 times more powerful. Flow state works by getting your slow conscious mind out of the way and letting your vastly more powerful subconscious take control. Let's consider another analogy. Think of a jazz musician improvising a solo. The musician has practiced for 10,000 hours. All those scales, patterns, and techniques are stored in their subconscious library. During improvisation in flow, this knowledge flows out effortlessly without conscious thought. If the musician starts consciously thinking about music theory during the solo, if they analyze which scale they should use, or whether this chord progression is correct, they hesitate. They stumble. The magic disappears. But in flow state, the music seems to play itself through them. Their fingers know where to go. The notes emerge from intuition, not calculation. One of the most striking features of flow is how it warps your perception of time. Your sense of time passing is actually constructed by your prefrontal cortex. It's constantly marking intervals and creating the feeling of duration. But remember, in flow, the prefrontal cortex reduces its activity. When this happens, your time tracking mechanism essentially turns off. In normal state, 1 hour feels like 60 minutes, but in deep flow, 3 hours might feel like only 20 minutes. Time compresses dramatically. Some people report that perceived time is only about 10% of actual time during intense flow. 3 hours feels like 18 minutes. This is why you can sit down at your computer in the morning, become absorbed in your work, and suddenly look up to find it's dark outside and 6 hours have vanished. Here's an important question. Why does flow state feel so good? What's the evolutionary purpose? The answer is that flow is evolution's way of rewarding learning and skill development. When you're operating at the edge of your abilities, growing and improving, your brain releases pleasure chemicals. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. You're developing skills that increase your chances of survival. Your brain rewards this with pleasure to encourage you to keep doing it. The flow reward is a function of your skill growth rate. The faster you're learning and improving, the stronger the flow state and the better it feels. In flow, something remarkable happens called action-awareness merger. You become one with the activity. Normally, there's a separation. Part of you is performing the action, and another part is watching yourself perform, evaluating, judging. In normal consciousness, there's you, the observer, watching the action. This creates a separation, a sense of self distinct from what you're doing. But in flow, the observer vanishes. You are not watching yourself perform the action. You are the action. There's no separation. This is action-awareness merger. The painter doesn't feel like someone painting a canvas. They become the painting it. The writer becomes the story. The athlete becomes the motion. Now the practical question, how do you actually trigger flow state? What are the conditions? First trigger, you need clear goals. You must know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Ambiguity prevents flow. Second, immediate feedback. You need to know instantly whether you're succeeding or failing. This keeps you engaged and allows rapid adjustment. Third, the challenge must match your skill level. Remember that 3 to 5% stretch beyond your current ability. Fourth, you need intense focused concentration. Flow requires full attention. Distractions destroy it. Fifth, Eliminate external distractions. Turn off notifications. Close unnecessary tabs. Create an environment that supports deep focus. Rock climbing is a perfect activity for inducing flow. Let's see why. Rock climbing has clear goals. Reach the top. It provides immediate feedback. You're either holding on or falling. The route difficulty can be precisely matched to skill level. And it demands complete concentration. One distracted moment could mean a fall. All the flow triggers are naturally present in rock climbing. This is why climbers often report profound flow experiences. Some people seem to enter flow more easily than others. Psychologists call this the Autotelic personality. Autotelic means self-goal. An Autotelic person derives pleasure from the activity itself, not from external rewards. They pursue challenges because they enjoy the process of growth and mastery, not because they want praise, money, or status. Autotelic people tend to be curious, persistent, and have low ego involvement. They're comfortable with failure because they see it as learning. The probability of entering flow is proportional to intrinsic motivation divided by ego attachment. More internal drive and less ego makes flow more likely. Flow doesn't just happen individually. Groups can enter collective flow states. In group flow, the team moves as one. Communication becomes almost telepathic. Members anticipate each other's actions. Team members become interconnected, like nodes in a network. Information flows seamlessly. The collective intelligence emerges. You see this in jazz ensembles playing together, surgical teams performing complex operations, basketball teams executing perfect plays. Team flow equals the sum of individual contributions plus the synergy term. The whole becomes greater than the sum of parts. We should also acknowledge that flow has a potential dark side. Because flow feels so good, it can become addictive. People can chase the high and neglect other important areas of life. You can enter flow states while doing things that aren't actually valuable. Spending 8 hours in flow playing video games doesn't help you achieve your real goals. The time dilation effect means you can neglect eating, sleeping, or social connections when you're too deep in flow too often. The key is to use flow intentionally. Channel it toward activities that align with your values and long-term objectives. Scientists have developed ways to measure flow using standardized scales. The flow state scale measures 9 dimensions of the flow experience. 1. Challenge skill balance. Do you feel the task difficulty matches your ability? 2. Action awareness merging. Are you becoming one with the activity? 3. Clear goals. Do you know exactly what you're trying to achieve? 4. Unambiguous feedback. Do you immediately know how well you're doing? 5. Total concentration. Is your full attention absorbed in the activity? 6. Sense of control. Do you feel confident you can handle the situation? 7. Loss of self-consciousness. Has your worry about how others perceive you disappeared? 8. Time transformation. Has your perception of time changed dramatically? 9. Autotelic experience. Is the activity intrinsically rewarding regardless of outcome? Let's talk about practical applications. How can you use this knowledge? First, structure your work to maximize flow opportunities. Break large projects into clear sub-goals with immediate feedback loops. Second, gradually increase difficulty as your skills improve. Stay in that 3 to 5% stretch zone. Third, create environments that support flow. Minimize distractions. Use tools that provide clear feedback. Fourth, practice mindfulness meditation. This strengthens your ability to maintain focused attention, which makes entering flow easier. Fifth, track when you experience flow. Notice what conditions were present, then deliberately recreate those conditions. Here's a powerful formula for accelerating learning using flow. Optimal learning equals struggle plus flow plus recovery. You need all 3 phases. In the struggle phase, you push beyond your comfort zone. This creates the neural stress that drives adaptation. In flow, you consolidate and integrate. Your subconscious connects the dots and internalizes the new skill. In recovery, you rest and let your brain rewire. Sleep is critical here for memory consolidation. The optimal cycle time is about 90 to 120 minutes. Work intensely for 90 minutes, then take a break. This matches your natural ultradian rhythm. Flow state has a profound connection to creativity and insight. During certain phases of flow, your default mode network activates. This is the brain network responsible for creative insights. In flow, your brain makes connections across different domains. You see patterns that connect seemingly unrelated ideas. Your mind draws connections between mathematics and music, between nature and art, between physics and philosophy. This cross-pollination generates creative breakthroughs. Many famous scientists report that their greatest insights came during flow-like states. Einstein visualizing riding a beam of light, Kekulé dreaming the structure of benzene. Let me summarize the key scientific principles we've covered about the flow state. Flow is the state where peak performance feels effortless, because your conscious mind steps aside. Your prefrontal cortex reduces activity, while subconscious networks take over, processing information 100,000 times faster. Flow requires a precise balance where challenge matches skill at about 3 to 5% above current level. A cocktail of dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, anandamide, and serotonin floods your brain, dramatically enhancing performance. Research shows flow can increase productivity by 500% and learning speed by 2 to 5 times. Like the dancer who performs best when not thinking about each step, you achieve peak performance when you stop trying so hard and let expertise flow. Most importantly, flow is a trainable skill. By understanding the triggers and creating the right conditions, you can learn to enter flow states more reliably and use them to accelerate learning and achievement.